Super BS
presents. Welcome back to another special episode of Super BS Presents. Brian here. Today I had the opportunity to chat with Zack Johnson and Kevin Simmons from Asymmetric about their game West of Loathing. We got to talk about that, how they got into development, about their older game Kingdom of Loathing, and about the Nintendo Switch. I hope you enjoy. Check out their game West of Loathing on Steam and email us at superbscast@gmail.com. I'm here with, who am I talking to, my friends?
Zack Johnson.
And Kevin Simmons.
And I'm the creative director of Asymmetric, and we just made West of Loathing.
Yeah. I'm a producer and designer.
Hell yeah, you guys did. That's an amazing game. Well, I thank you guys for being on here, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about the game. How long have you guys been working in the games industry for?
So in 2003, I made this weird sort of web browser MMORPG with very much the same sort of sensibilities as West of Loathing, called Kingdom of Loathing, set in the same universe. And I don't know, when did you come on? You came on in 2004?
Yeah.
So yeah, like a long time,
Whoa,
a weirdly long
So
time.
here's a question: would you consider that part of the games industry?
I certainly wouldn't have at the time.
Because
yeah,
I would almost argue that we joined the games industry 2 months ago when we released West of Loathing.
Oh, with West of Loathing?
Yeah, because I feel like everything up to that point has been sort of
You're not
outside the mainstream.
Yeah, you're
in a lot
not.
of ways.
I know you're not supposed to refer to yourself as outsider art, but I think that you can refer to something you made 15 years ago as outsider art, and I think that's kind of where we were for a really long time, because we were in Phoenix, and there wasn't really. There's a little bit of a sort of game development scene there now, but there definitely wasn't in 2003.
Or at
and
least we weren't
sort of
part of it.
Never really talked to anyone else who was doing anything. So
Yeah, well,
yeah, we've had a little
Loathing...
bit of a weird arc as a studio.
Yeah, but Kingdom of Loathing is huge. Like, I definitely wouldn't consider it. I mean, not like huge. You know, it's no RuneScape in terms of like web-based games, but it's definitely not something that you can like scoff at. You guys have a pretty decent-sized player base, so.
Oh yeah, and you know it made enough money to sustain 6 to 10 full-time employees for the entire time since 2003. Like
Wow.
we definitely like understood that we had real jobs.
Yeah.
It was always a little bit surprising whenever we would go to some games event and anyone had heard of it.
Oh, really? I mean, I follow game news, so maybe it's different for me.
Yeah, we just didn't talk to a lot of other people. The main problem was mostly isolation, not the sort of absence of legitimacy.
Yeah. I guess the notion of industry, the notion of a games industry, to me implies that you are part of a larger collective in a way that we did not feel like we were until very recently.
And part of that was just over the last couple of years, like just making an effort to meet more people and go to more things. And there's a little bit of a network effect. Like you go to GDC the first time and you don't know anyone and it sucks. And then you go to GDC the next time, and because you've met one person, they introduce you to 10 other people, and then suddenly you're part of a gang.
Yeah.
Did you guys get a chance to go to GDC this year? I saw you guys were at PAX.
We've been sort of, because we're based in San Francisco now, we sort of hang around the periphery of GDC. It's expensive to get a pass, so we don't tend to go to the actual conference or show anything at the conference. But because we're here, we like get the sort of all the benefits of being in San Francisco during GDC without having to shell out the dough.
Okay, you don't. It sounds like it's fairly expensive then to go there as a game developer.
Pass is like $2,000.
Wow. Okay, and that's with hopefully booth space and stuff.
No, that's just to attend.
Just to attend is like $2,000. It's one of those things where a lot of people don't. It's sort of like flying business class. Like a lot of people, the employer pays for it, and so it's just priced like that.
And speakers get in free, and like sponsors get badges and stuff. There's definitely a bunch of ways to get there for less money, but if you're not sort of doing anything as part of the show, you just end up having to pay the full price, and it's rough.
Yeah, I mean, well, with everything in San Francisco, I can only imagine that adds up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So what made you guys decide, I'm jumping ahead a little bit on some of the stuff I want to ask, but because of Kingdom of Loathing, we talked about that, and its stick figure drawing, what made you guys decide to go with that aesthetic for like both Kingdom and West of Loathing?
for Kingdom of Loathing, in the beginning, it was just me working on it, so it had to everything just had to be done however I could do it because it wasn't making any money, so I couldn't hire anybody else, and I didn't. I kind of didn't want to have to. I had worked on various little web game projects and stuff, but nothing ever got off the ground, and so I decided, all right, I want to make something that I can do all of it myself in a week and actually put something out there and see if anybody cares about it. So it's written just as well as I could write, and it's drawn just as well as I can draw, and coded just as well as I can code, and it's system administrated. That was actually my job, so I was okay at getting a website on the internet. So I was in a sort of an IT database programming background.
Oh, that's awesome though. And when did you jump on, Kevin?
The game had been around for about a year, and I came on as a player and spent about a month sort of plumbing the depths of the game, and then got to where the game sort of just stopped. It kind of ended in a cliffhanger because it wasn't finished, and okay. I then spent another month or so just trying to break it. So I would try to do PHP exploits and that kind of thing, and then I would send these long detailed bug reports in and never hear anything back until eventually I found Zack's phone number on the internet because he hadn't made his whois information private, and somebody else who was not me was hacking the game in a more serious way. So I called him and said, hey, you might want to log in and fix this. And then somehow we became friends after that. So it turned into what would have been otherwise a really creepy incident turned out to be just fine.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a weird, I've never interviewed for a job, so I guess that's the closest thing that I've ever done.
You did kind of interview when you found a person to hack the code and then get you the phone number.
Exactly.
And do all this other stuff. Real quick, just because I love technical stuff, what did you code it in originally, Zach?
It was all, I guess, basic LAMP stack. So it was PHP on the front end, MySQL database backend, running on Apache on originally shared Linux hosting back in the day when that was still a thing.
Oh wow! So you didn't.
It was before the days of Squarespace and sort of large consolidated domain hosting companies.
So the game is done outside of contemporary languages like C++ and Java.
Yeah, Kingdom of Loathing is entirely PHP and MySQL. That said, so is Facebook. They don't like to talk about that, but it's absolutely a thing that you can make a robust and scalable web app in.
That's crazy. I just assumed almost all games, I do a little programming myself, I assumed all games were done in contemporary languages. I didn't think that there was that many things done in just PHP.
Kingdom of Loathing is way more of a web page than it is a video game in that regard. So it's,
I don't know, man. It's pretty awesome. So what, recently you guys have had tons of crazy positive press with West of Loathing. Has that affected your guys' day-to-day life, your studio?
Our egos?
Yeah. Well, now that you're gods among men.
We did not expect the game to do as well as it did. In fact, we were sort of preparing for it to come out, not sell a bunch, and then we were going to have to figure out what to do. And the fact that it has done so well has been great, but we sort of told ourselves before it came out that we were not going to fundamentally change anything, even if it sold really, really well, or got tons of great press or whatever, because we want to not sort of, now that we have sort of a bit of a comfortable sort of runway, I guess you'd call it, we don't want to screw that up. And so we're just going to kind of try to keep making stuff that we like and at the same pace that we are happy with. I don't think it has changed our culture a ton at all.
It's only been 5 weeks.
That's also true.
So I've ordered a lot of Porsches that haven't showed up yet. So who knows? When they get here, it might.
You did buy a Vive.
Dramatically. I did buy a Vive. That was the one.
That's
extravagance.
Equal to 2 Porsches pretty much nowadays.
Sure.
$800 plus a $1,200.
Well, you can pretend that you're driving a Porsche, and it's pretty good.
Kingdom of Loathing was doing okay financially, but not great. I mean, it's a 15-year-old MMO, right? So everything. Ultima Online still sustaining a staff of a few people, but not as many as it did 5, 10, and especially 15 years ago. And so with this was kind of how this game does kind of determines what the future looks like. Do we shrink the company down to just a couple of people or just me and keep doing KOL, or do we keep the band together and keep making new games? And luckily we get to keep the band together and keep making new games.
That's awesome. So since you guys, it seems like you're friends with some of the developers and press and journalists and other people in San Francisco, I mean, I'd heard about you guys on Idle Thumbs. That's how I found you. Are you friends with those people?
Yeah, we had sort of met them right before. So we moved to San Francisco like 4 years ago, and it was right around the time that Idle Thumbs did their Kickstarter, and I met them at that GDC. And then right after that, they when Sean and Jake had left Telltale and were forming Campo Santo and needing office space, they sort of approached us because they knew that we had just moved to town, and they figured, well, maybe we could both get a nicer office than we would normally be able to afford if we pooled resources. And so we just kind of got in that way, and then have just kind of been more or less co-workers with them for the entire development of Firewatch and then the entire development of West of Loathing all took place after we moved into the office together.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, that's just a cool thing of like making friends in the industry and it working out. So we've talked about Kingdom of Loathing a little bit, but what inspired you guys to make West of Loathing instead of just go way off the deep end and do something totally different?
Well, we had gone way off the deep end and done something totally different a few years ago, and it just didn't work out that well. We made a game called Word Realms that we learned a lot about how not to make video games. There are definitely some cool things about it, and it's not like fundamentally a flawed idea. But our first attempt to like make a kind of a more modern game didn't work out so well, and we were like, well, let's make a new game that sort of sticks to our core competencies. One where we don't have to like adjust the writing style, and one where we don't have to adjust the art style, and one that just lets us, kind of build content basically the same way that we've been building it for Kingdom of Loathing for a really long time, which allowed us to make a game that is very, very large with relatively little manpower and in a pretty short amount of time.
Our tools for making KOL are a bunch of sort of portals that like scripts that sort of spit out PHP and that kind of thing. And so our tools for making West of Loathing are a bunch of web pages that spit out XML basically and the JSON.
It's JSON. Yeah. It's
JSON?
So we do all of the we do all of the content development in just like an internal web app, because that's also just the guy that I hired to do the majority of the programming for KOL now is just really good at that stuff. And so it was like, all right, let's you know how we like to work, make us an editor for this thing, and it's just poof, it's done. And not to diminish the work that he does, it took some time, but it's just I think the reason that we decided to make another Loathing game was very specifically so that we could like make a modern thing while sticking to what we knew we were good at.
No, it's excellent. I mean, it's hilarious. Like that leads me to this. Like, where do you guys come up with all the jokes? Do you just sit around like thinking of funny jokes and try to make the game based on that?
Yeah, our brainstorming meetings are typically like our goal is usually to make the other people laugh, and like typically if we have like some design or narrative problem that we're trying to solve, the solution presents itself when we arrive at something that we all think is pretty funny. So I don't know, it just kind of happens that way. I don't think we could make a serious game if we tried.
Well, I mean, it's enjoyable that way. There's not a lot of very funny games, and from what I've played of West Loathing, it's hilarious. I haven't got very far. I'm not a big computer or PC gamer, which we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. I got something to ask you guys about. But what I did play on Steam, I loved. Who did your music for the game?
Ryan Ike, who is a composer he's working on a bunch of stuff that hasn't quite come out yet. He's doing the music for Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, and he did. We met him at some random game industry event in San Francisco, and I knew that he had done a song or two for Tom Francis's game Gunpoint that came out a few years ago. And so, we knew, all right, there's a guy we know who likes Kingdom of Loathing. We know he's a good composer. We know he's easy to work with, so we just approached him, and he was real excited to come on board. And
he's a really funny guy. He also did some work with Frog Fractions too.
Oh, right.
Oh, wow. So, that's awesome.
He's really great. It's been kind of a joy working with him.
Off topic, you guys meant. Oh, sound. He also did your sound design?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So he just didn't just do the music. Okay. Wow.
Correct.
He did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he was basically involved very early in the process. We started getting music into the game very early, and then we probably waited a little too long on the sound design. But like he was because he had been part of the project the whole time. It was not like a super foreign thing to him. Coming in, so
he's mostly known as a composer, but he has done a bunch of sound design work for games before, and was happy to. And he was also excited to sort of learn how to use our tools because we all of our engine stuff is kind of homebrew. We don't have any of the middleware that companies usually
like
use to sort
whatever.
of, or WYs, like the things that companies use to facilitate sound designers and composers being able to get stuff into the game. So he kind of had to learn enough of our scripting language to wire sounds up to things, and he was excited to do it and was awesome at it.
That's amazing. Off topic a little bit. You guys mentioned Gunpoint. Did you get a chance to play the new game from Tom Francis? I want to say it's Heat Signature.
Heat Signature, yeah. I think Kevin and I have both been on the playtest branch of that for
a while,
like a year or so now. And it's real good.
It's
super
cool.
super fun.
Yeah, it's another game
Tom's a smart guy. Makes good games.
Is he up there in San Francisco with you guys?
No,
he lives in Bath because he started out in I think in Bath, England. I don't know if he was originally from there, but Bath is weirdly where a lot of the English games press is, and Tom started out as a writer for PC Gamer.
Excellent.
And switched from journalism to dev, basically to make Gunpoint.
Yeah, kept like a really good sort of like developer log, which I think was relatively uncommon at the time, and sort of had a big following there, which I think was one of the reasons that Gunpoint came out with to such a wide audience. I mean, besides the fact that it's a great game, but like it got a lot more sort of press because he was so open about how he was developing it.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about it. So when did you guys start making West of Loathing? That's something I forgot to ask because I'm curious. It came out this year in August, and it was greenlit 2016, right?
Yeah, I think development was well underway by the time we did the Greenlight campaign. Essentially, everyone who was involved in the project came on full time in June of 2015.
Oh wow!
So it was we had done a year-ish of kind of screwing around with prototypes and concepts and trying to like sort of lay out where some of the content was going to look like, what it was going to look like.
We built
for like
built
a year before that.
The back-end tools, and we did sort of a dry run with a Unity programmer to just test out whether it would look like anything.
We didn't know if it was going to be even remotely possible to get my art into like a 3D diorama and have it not look terrible. And so that we had some early like proof of concept stuff happening. But full scale development was basically 2 years and 2 months, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh,
we probably spent.
That's not bad at all, time-wise.
No, we spent about a year making sort of the first hour of the game, and then another year making the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, most games nowadays, I feel like, especially for small teams, can take anywhere from 2 to 4 years. I want to say Tacoma took 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And Campo Santo, I don't know how long they worked on Firewatch, but I know that took quite a bit of time, too.
Just about 2 years. I think it was remarkably fast for a game of its scope and quality.
Yeah, but your game, West of Loathing, is like 40 hours, so 2 years is not bad for that
sure,
much
but
time.
look at it. You know, it doesn't adding a new area. I mean, I do all of the art just with a pen and paper, and then scan it and edit it into the game. And so it's like relatively easy for us to, you know, if they had decided they wanted to add a whole new type, like a chapter of Firewatch that took place in a jungle instead of a forest would have been, you know, two years of work for them. Whereas for me, it's like, oh, if I draw 3 new trees, then suddenly we can have a scene that's in a jungle.
Yeah, Sean from Campo Santo is a little jealous of how fast our development pipeline is compared to theirs. So,
well, they just need to get a full-time hat designer like you guys have too.
That's true. Yeah, we do have more hats than them by a lot.
That's the most important thing in games. If you've seen Dota and all the hats, that is the number one thing you gotta do. Monetize the hats, guys. That's the best part. Do you guys have any short-term goals or long-term goals for West of Loathing before you guys move on to something else?
Yeah, we actually just spent 4 days up in Portland plotting out the first piece of like significant DLC that we're gonna make, that we're gonna release before the end of the year. We've already started working on that, and then we are also sort of simultaneously working on porting the game to other platforms.
I like that.
We're starting with iOS and see how it does on mobile, and then we will look at console stuff. And then also we're gonna do. So we've also got the game right now is only available on Steam, but hopefully in the near future it will also be available on places like GOG and itch.io.
Oh, okay, cool. I imagine itch.io is pretty easy to submit to. I talked to some guys who made games on that.
Yeah.
Seems like
Yeah, I think that one doesn't actually consist of much. And as soon as we're talking to the people at GOG, and as soon as we can like kind of figure out what that pipeline looks like, and then we'll have a better idea of what it means to be like making all of these different branches after every patch to put into all the different stores. So
that's the proliferation of platforms becomes a lot more of a headache for the Unity programmer that we've been working with. So we just want to make sure that's like something that he's okay with and on board for and that kind of thing. So
is the game being made in Unity then? Because I thought it was being made in. Oh, okay. I thought
it's basically a Unity engine that runs like when we're building rooms and things, we don't do that in Unity. It's a Unity engine that reads in our data and like plots out the scenes and handles everything. But all of our stuff, all of the game logic is done in the scripting language that we made up initially for KOL. So that the writers could do like interactive conversation stuff without me having to write code for it, but which has since grown into this monstrosity that handles pretty much everything that happens gameplay wise. The Unity part is what like, make sure that things that are supposed to display in front of other things do, and like handle animations and stuff like
collision
that. But
stuff
but all of the writing and the interactions between objects and stuff is all done in a kind of homebrew scripting language.
And we have an internal argument about what the homebrew scripting language is called. We can't decide.
The engine, the engine is either the programmer is pushing for Swole. Just standard West of Loathing engine.
Yeah,
and we were referring to it as Wolverine for a long time, but we couldn't figure out what the Arene stood for.
Or sounds awesome.
Well, it's the interactive narrative engine.
Okay, right. It starts with West of Loathing and ends with interactive narrative engine, but we're not sure what the
very extensible RAD was my VER pitch. So.
But it's cumbersome. I think it's going to be Swole.
Swole. Nice. You on Swole yet? No, you guys have already somehow managed to tackle into one of like the biggest markets ever right now. I want to say I read Steam is releasing something like 2,000 games a week or a month or something like that. How are you guys going to, plumb the depths of iOS, which is like a dying, decaying, like amalgamation of every single game ever? I mean, your game will be really well suited.
Our main strategy is keeping our expectations really low.
Yeah, because we're doing it in part because that's what people have asked us for. Like we want to provide the game on platforms that people have asked for, if we can.
I'll ask against them that you guys release it on Switch instead.
Well, we're definitely
not instead.
We're definitely doing. We met with Nintendo at PAX and have we've started the ball rolling on getting all that set up. Yeah. So we're I can't say with like 1,000% certainty that the Switch port is going to happen, but we're definitely planning on doing it and working towards it.
Yeah, like we haven't built on their dev platform yet, but that's the plan.
We're all like dudes in our early 40s, so the idea of having a game that we made on a Nintendo platform is very exciting.
Oh yeah, and it's. Do you guys happen to own Switches by chance?
We all none of us did before we visited the Nintendo headquarters, but then we all spent a bunch of money.
They might not even want us to port West of Loathing to Switch. It might have just been a ploy to get us to spend
a bunch of money at the company
store. Employee store.
Yeah. I don't think they're trying to do that because they're selling those things like fire, man. I mean, it's insane. Did you guys? I don't want to delve too off topic, but did you guys get a chance to play any games? Have you
Breath of the Wild? After I got back from PAX, I basically disappeared into Breath of the Wild for 4 or 5 days and just didn't do anything else. It's such a good game.
It's amazing. What about you, Zach? Did you get a chance to play anything on it?
Yeah, I played a bunch of SteamWorld Dig 2.
That's amazing. Oh, yeah. I've been playing that recently.
Real good.
Just got that last night, actually.
No.
It is great, and that's why I want your guys' game to be on it, because there's a chance I'll actually finish a game. Like if it's on PS4 or Xbox, I'll get to it, but I normally don't finish it.
The Switch is a perfect platform for us. Like right now we don't have controller support, so that's like our next sort of technical thing that we're working towards. Yeah. And we'll have that, add that to the PC, but then that will allow us to move over to the Switch, and the Switch works with the touch screen, which is a really good way to play the game. And then we'll also be able to do controller stuff, and so I think it'll be a very natural feeling setup.
We've had the game running on iPads for basically the entire time because the demo that we have for the game at shows is really long.
Yeah.
And so like if people want to get into it, they can play for like a half hour, 45 minutes. And so we tried to really like maximize the number of stations that we had for people to play at, and getting it running on iPads was a way to get a lot more people into the booth.
Yeah, we could just hand people an iPad and let them play, and then
that's one of the reasons that the iOS port is kind of the first thing out, is because a lot of that work is already done.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, iOS is a great market, and this type of game will work perfectly. I think, games where point and click, where you can also play as an RPG, excellent, crossover. But please, if you do make it on Switch, please don't make it touchscreen only. Please let it be.
No. We would. That I feel like would be not like
ridiculous.
A kiss of death, but it would be real dumb to limit it like that. I don't know. Are there games that release like that?
There are 5 or 6 now, and there's a game called Severed. Do you guys know of a company called Drinkbox? They made a game called Guacamelee.
Oh yeah,
I have. I played Severed on my iPad. I think
I've heard that's the best place to play it.
Grid dungeon crawler with like kind of what was that?
Etrian Odyssey or like
I'm thinking about the combat. What were those? There were those phone
Infinity
games.
Blade?
Infinity Blade, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. That was exactly it, yeah.
Yeah, I liked Infinity Blade a lot because, the iPad was new and I picked it up. But that's the thing that stopped me from purchasing Severed, actually, was I wanted to be able to play it on my screen. And with the controllers being able to use gyroscopic, I was hoping that they'd be able to, use the IR sensors and I'd be able to play it on my TV because that's kind of the thing. It looks like an amazing game. I loved Guacamelee, but yeah, they made it touch screen, or they made it portable mode, so you have to use the touch screen. So for me, that is like a kiss of death for a lot of people. I'm sure tons of people still buy it because a lot of people just play the Switch as a portable console. But
I have really enjoyed being able to just pop it into the base station and just like go back and forth between portable and on the TV. It's just ideal.
Yeah,
it's
the Pro controller feels it's just so much more comfortable to use than the Joy-Cons too. That it's
Yeah, the Pro controller is amazing. It should have been boxed with the system, but I mean that's a whole nother argument for another day because that's like an $80 controller.
Yeah,
but it's amazing, man. It's a really great concept and console, and I think your game would find a lot of traction there. It's just I'm hoping you guys can get there before the deluge of things start flowing. Because
I mean we're going to miss the first wave, obviously, and then the trick is whether like if Nintendo is willing to sort of just help sort of promote it a little bit, I think that would make a big difference for us. It's the same thing with iOS. If we can get even just a little bit of featuring from Apple, that would help so much in actually sort of making it worthwhile. But that's a real crapshoot. We have no control over what they decide to pick up, that kind of thing.
I do think that this is a weird advantage of the art style in some ways, I hope, which is that when you're flipping through the store page on a console like shop, nothing else is going to look like this. So it will at least be eye-catching, like whether you then look into whether it's a good game or not, or are willing to buy it based on that is another question, I guess. But consoles also, I mean, selling it on iOS, we're probably just going to have to make it cheaper because no one will pay $10 or $11 for a game on iOS. But on consoles, they will, so we can have price parity there.
Yeah, it's. I think that's a super important thing that you touched on is making it look like even just the title for the eShop. That's a very important thing. You can tell when a game, like I want to say it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that, some weird like card game is made that looks like somebody put it together in minutes and got put on the store, versus like something where it's like SteamWorld Dig 2 or something where you can tell there's like love and attention put into something. I think
it's like a distinctive real style.
Yeah. I think that's super important, and I think that's what you guys have been going for this whole time. I think that's half the reason why your game is, getting out there in the wave of other stuff. I mean, 2,000 games a week or a month, and somehow like your game is one of the very few I've heard of.
Yeah, we were very fortunate to have had the sort of like decade plus of Kingdom of Loathing people kind of still listening to us.
Yeah.
We had a pretty sizable mailing list, and we're able to like just tweet like, hey guys, it'd be really, really great if you came and bought our new game so that maybe we'd get on the Steam charts so a bunch of other people can see it, and then we just sort of managed to have that happen.
We happened to release in a week where there wasn't a lot of other new stuff coming out and there weren't any major sales, so we got to stay sort of in the Steam top 10 for a long time. in that sort of rotation of games in their little banner. And then we also got incredibly lucky, and Markiplier did a bunch of videos of our game, which I think probably brought another couple tens of thousands of people to sort of look at and buy the game. So yeah.
Well, I want to respect your guys' time, but I have a couple more questions real quick before we go.
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
What have you what's your favorite game that you've played recently? Like, I know you mentioned Breath of the Wild, but I'm just curious, like, what have you guys played in the last month? I know you've been making games, so you don't have a lot of time. But have you played anything in the last couple of months that you thought, oh, man, that is just amazing? It's really, really cool work.
Zack hated the game compared to me, but I played Metroid Samus Returns and have really been digging that a lot. For me, it is very much sort of reminding me of the original Metroid that I played in my youth, and sort of recapturing that nostalgia in a big way. So also another Nintendo platform game. So
on 3DS, sadly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what I've gotten real excited about recently. I really liked the new Torment Tides of Numenera.
Amazing.
It was like the PC RPG that was a follow-up to Planescape Torment. I thought that was real good.
Yeah, my buddies and I play the tabletop, so we were waiting for a long time. No, it's a great game. I didn't buy the console version. I got it on PC. Those games are better played on PC.
I agree.
Definitely.
It's just hard to port those games to console, I feel like, because there's so much menu and organization and all that type of stuff. The UI is so important. And then this is kind of along that same question, but what's like one of your favorite games from the past? You guys said you're in your early 40s. I'm like early 30s, late 20s. I'm 29. What's like one of your favorite games that you've like?
I would say Star Control 2.
Yeah.
Star Control 2, really?
Yeah, that's definitely in my top 5 for sure.
What?
It might be my number. Star Control 2 is like one of the best games ever made.
Really? I will have to check this out. It's an old PC game, I take, right?
Yeah. So the first Star Control was just a kind of a sort of a follow-on from like the 70s Space War like oscilloscope game, where it was just two ships fighting against each other, kind of asteroid style, but different ships with like wildly different abilities. Star Control 2 puts that into like this giant galaxy-spanning adventure game thing where you're sort of like, you know, in this ancient technology spaceship, sort of controlling the fate of all these different races of aliens. It's really, really good. There is a free, updated, not a port of it exactly, but kind of a remake using all of the original assets called the Urquan Masters that is just free. So it's still very easy to play this game, and it doesn't cost anything. It's very, very, very good.
Yeah, and then I would say Psychonauts is another game that I just absolutely love.
Are you excited for the sequel? That's coming out.
Yeah,
in the future someday.
Yeah, I don't know when, but I'm definitely I'm on board for sure.
You guys are near the Double Fine guys. Do you ever talk to them and say, "Hey, finish your game"?
We don't know a ton of the Double Fine folks.
Yeah, we know a lot of ex Double Fine people, but not a lot of current Double Fine people.
Yeah.
Did that VR thing come out?
Yeah,
it did.
I think so.
The PSVR one came out, I want to say June or maybe even earlier this year.
That's why I didn't see it, because
exactly.
It's PSVR only.
Yeah, and
Damn,
it's
that
only
exclusivity.
1 hour too. Yeah, so
it's real short.
That's about right for a VR game, honestly. Like, because it's, I don't know. I enjoy like a nice 1 hour long experience in VR. If it gets much past that, it's like bleh. Get a little barfy.
Yeah, I need to jump on the VR trend at some point. It's just it's something that you need to do where you have a lot of like time to put aside just to do that, and I find myself getting distracted easily. That's why the Switch is very perfect. Like, I gotta run out and do something. But yeah, I would love to. I've heard a lot of great things. Everybody who owns a VR is a believer, but me, I'm a heretic out here. I don't believe in it.
Well, they might all just be trying to justify the purchase price by pretending that it's really great.
Yeah, well, hopefully you jumped on the Vive when it dropped $200 recently.
Yeah, no, I was looking at it and I thought, man, I do not want to spend $800 on this, and I decided not to buy it. And then like the next day it went on sale. Like, okay, they must have heard me.
Yeah,
so
they're like, Zach doesn't want to buy it. Drop it $200. He's in.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys so much for being on this show with us. And I've heard you guys do some podcasts. If you wouldn't mind, just you plug in some of your stuff. That'd be rad. I'd love to know what other stuff you guys do.
Yeah, three of us and Jim Crawford, I guess now Jim Storm Dancer, from the guy who made Frog Fractions and Frog Fractions 2. We all do a podcast called Video Games Hot Dog, which is just we talk about video games. You'll never believe this. It's four white guys talking about video games.
That's impossible. I've never seen that before. It doesn't happen. So
it's an unusual format, but we're going to stick with it.
And we also have a Kingdom of Loathing podcast that has been happening more or less regularly since 2003, 2004, which is just, if you just search for the Kingdom of Loathing podcast, it's not...
It's becoming a little bit more of a general loathing podcast. People can ask questions about West of Loathing or Kingdom of Loathing.
And you guys, I read you guys have some other podcasts about parenting and stuff, or is that all in the Video Games Hot Dog?
Those were all. There were various things under the Hot Dog umbrella over time, but really, Video Games Hot Dog is the only one that's left at this point.
Well, no, horror show. Hot Dog
I guess that's true. Going. Yeah. So. A guy that we used to work with, and some of his friends do one about horror movies.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. And the final thing I want to take out on is for any people who are like looking get into the games industry or like to make a game, what's some advice that you could give them just in case? Because I mean, this has been my favorite thing is talking to people. You know, I do some programming myself and I love video games. I just love hearing about like, hey, this is what I did or this is a cool thing to do. Try this out. Give up is what I like hearing the most.
Participate in a game jam. You know, that's the easiest way, I think, now. There are so many of them, and people are generally like so happy to be there and so friendly that you figure out how you can sort of bring your skills to bear quickly and actually produce something, and then, you know, then you'll be able to point at something that you made or something that you worked on, and that is so huge in trying to get a job is like, look, I made a game. Okay, well, you're one of the people who knows what making a game is,
right.
So now you're a candidate.
If a game jam isn't convenient or sort of a good option for you, then just make something and show it to people early and often. Like, it sounds dumb, but there are so many easily accessible tools these days. Like, if you can't make something with Twine or...
like puzzle script.
Yeah, there are so many things that like you can sit down and learn in an hour and make something. You know, you're not going to necessarily be making like a first-person shooter in 3D, but that's also only like a week away with free tools. You know, so whatever you want to make, there's something out there for you to be able to make it in, and just do it, even if it's scrappy. You know,
I just want to make like a Halo-style multiplayer online PUBG first-person shooter in a couple days. You know, like maybe an hour or two of work a day.
Yeah, maybe do awesome. Like just learn how to mod Arma and release it as an Arma mod. That seems to be the way that. So I mean, I think the point in general though is that there are a lot of people who are good at programming, and there are a lot of people who are good at making pixel art, and everybody has an idea, but there are not a lot of people who can successfully like go from idea to execution to finished product.
Yeah,
and that is the thing that is by far the most important thing about actually making games is being able to do that. So just do that on a very small scale, and then you'll have done it once.
Yep.
Well, it's been a pleasure, guys. I mean, this is really awesome. We're a very, very small podcast. So I appreciate it. It was awesome talking to you guys. Thank you so much, Zach and Kevin.
Thanks for having us on.
No, what? No, thank you. Whatever. You guys don't thank us ever, okay? Anyways, thanks again, and everybody check out West of Loathing and Kingdom of Loathing, and once you make it for the Switch, I will definitely be talking about it more.
Awesome.
Thank you again, guys.
That'd be great. Okay. Ciao.
Well, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this interview. We'll hopefully get some more done in the future. Check out our regular episodes at SuperBS on iTunes and wherever fine podcasts are sold. Email us at superbscast@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram or Twitter. And check out West of Loathing. It's an awesome game. You can find it on Steam right now, and like they mentioned, it should be iOS and Switch, hopefully, in the future. Peace. Oh, yeah.
That to us people that can feel things, it hurts.